Okay, morning, folks. Welcome to the briefing on Tuesday, the 24th. Do apologise for the briefing yesterday. It wouldn't let anybody log in, and I have absolutely no idea why it did that. I went back and looked at all the settings. Just can't imagine why it had a funny 5 minutes. But do remember that we record these briefings and then we put them on the Lasham YouTube channel pretty much straight away. So certainly by 9:30, you'll be able to look at it again on YouTube. So what do we got today? Well, yesterday was an interesting scenario in so much as it proved that weather forecasting, very often you can predict what's going to happen, but most of the time you can't actually predict when. And it was about 3 hours later than we thought when the weather perked up and finally got soarable and they got a task out of it. I think today might be the same case. As you can see, the high pressure is centered over the north of England now. It's fairly well ensconced there, and it will be for the next couple of days. Feeding in now a little bit more easterly flow, and you can see spacing the isobars certainly down over the channel. It's going to be fairly breezy over the coast. Breezy, and then inland a little bit more spacing, so the wind drops off the further north you go. Pressure's steady at 1032, and I think it'll sort of stay there today and then start to come back down for the next couple of days. Looking at the TAFs, there's very little to show on there apart from the wind direction 0408 knots, 8 to 10 knots. East northeasterly, I think, most of the day. I think pretty much when it gets going, it'll be probably about 060 here. They're saying fewer 2,500 feet. But the interesting thing is this one here. Yesterday it said from 8 till 10 local, broken 800 feet, and then it moved the time to 11 o'clock. So it was obviously moving, knowing that the things wouldn't clear quite so quickly. But I think this will clear at some point mid-morning and start to sort of turn into sort of cumulus initially at, as it says there, 2,500 feet, maybe a little bit higher than that. And then we're going to see Q for most of the day around here. Upper winds, as you saw on the charts over the sort of channel in northern France, it's 25 knots of flying heights, east northeasterly, and in the middle of the country it's 10 knots, 070. So we're sort of somewhere in between. I think we're going to see at flying heights 15 knots here, maybe a fraction more than that. But the further north you go, the lighter it gets. Satpic, a little bit like yesterday, we saw sort of clearance coming through here and the low cloud loitering over us for a while. And if I just play that, you'll see that it's not really gone anywhere over us. And if anything, it's thickened up a little bit, so it might take a little while to clear. But generally quite clear in the southern half of the country most of the day. We got this stuff drifting in here, and lots of the forecasts pick it up as more cloud, more spread out, lower cloud bases north of Oxford Bicester area, really. Temperatures today not too dissimilar to yesterday, I would have thought. 22 degrees, maybe even 23 down here. Wind chill's going to take a bit off that. The feeling of needing a coat on the airfield will still be there for the majority of the day until it really gets warm in the afternoon. Dew points. Now that was the thing that sort of confused us yesterday. Dew points currently 12s, 13s, 13s in the Midlands, 12s around here at the moment, and it'll depend on how far they go down as to how much cumulus we're going to get. Some forecast models, SkySight and Top Meteo, seem to show that in the middle of the country, north of the M4 up towards Oxford, it's going to be sort of mainly blue with dew points down at about 7 or 8. I think if looking at the forecast, if it does go below sort of 8 degrees dew point temperature, then yeah, it's going to go blue. But my gut feeling is we're going to see cumulus. Dew points will be about 9s and 10s most of the day, like it went yesterday, only dropped a few degrees. Playing about with the soundings. That's this afternoon around here, 22 degrees, plug it in there. And with dew points of somewhere around 8 to 9, you're looking at cloud base about 4,500 feet, cloud tops just over 5, so quite thin clouds, 2 to 3/8 at most, and should be fairly reasonable. Then looking further north, this is the sort of Bicester Buckingham area. I think you've more chance of being overcast and spread out in this area here during the day. So it's the sort of mixture in between, really. The Lark Hill, it's an interesting sounding in so much as you can sort of see the air drying out in the sort of mid levels here. So if we plug in the sort of numbers with 21, 22 degrees, then you're going to find that if the dew points looking at this drop below about 9 degrees, then yeah, it could start to go blue, but it's still going to be fairly high, looking at sort of 1,500 meters in this area here, but fairly dry air. Top Meteo, they're showing, this is the sort of 10 o'clock prediction of starting to break up. It was about 3 hours behind or ahead of what actually happened yesterday, but it's showing slowly breaking up, and then by sort of midday we're starting to see cumulus and soaring, but blue bits. I've not really looked at the soundings out to the northwest of us, but I really can't believe it's going to be quite that blue there all day. You can see the development of cumulus north of Oxford and the spread out in that area there. And then for most of the day, just cumulus coming and going over us. I think it'll be 1 to 3/8 in this area here. Things to think about: north or an easterly, northeasterly wind tends to funnel air along the Thames estuary, so it can sort of wipe out things or make things difficult in the area, sort of Newbury M4 corridor. So that could be a factor today. South coast should be good down around here, and thermal heights by 12 o'clock, when they're suggesting it's going to get going, 3,000 feet there, 1,000 meters, and then move it on a couple of hours, 14, 15, 1,600 meters. So yeah, 4,500 feet I think is certainly achievable today, but tempered by the fact that it will be a 10 to 15 knots of flying heights, easterly wind. So quite a lot of drift. Just be aware of that if you're inexperienced and flying locally, that you will drift downwind fairly quickly. And the Top Meteo suggested distance. Today, that's for standard class gliders. So they're showing the wind arrows there, breezy, and anywhere really west of Lasham, to be honest. Just going to quickly look at the NOTAMs. Taking a look at them already today. And it's not really much of a change from the last couple of days. Things don't change dramatically, but they will at the weekend, as there's lots of events going on. Southampton is number 6, so that's change of operating hours. 11 is the high intensity radio transmissions at Boscombe Down. 15 is the crossing service not available for the danger areas. at Salisbury Plain. 13 is us, Compon. 21 is Fairford, ATZ has been activated. 22 is the juniors at Aston Down, and 24 is the Dunstable Regionals. Someone asked me what number 4 is, and that's the Dorset Gliding Club. We've got a flying week, so they've no-tammed it. And I can see why, because that's quite a busy sort of little corridor around there. Just people just avoid the western end of Boscombe Down, sorry, no, Bournemouth airspace. So fairly quiet. Operationally, as we have done for the last couple of days, we're on 09. Comp will be on the runway. We're operating grass north side with the launch point vehicle in the place we're going to launch from. As club pilots, when you want to come and fly, just put your glider on the line and we'll launch you. We will have to shut down and tuck everything away neatly while the comp goes. And I would guess it's going to be somewhere between 12 and 1 o'clock when that launches. And then once that's done, we can come back out and fly. And in an easterly operation, we can still launch if there's finishers. We just need to be a little bit careful about ensuring that if it gets really busy, we can stop launching at any time. Okay, so hopefully see you out there, folks. And we'll get flying, you know, when this lifts a little bit more, maybe. Just one last thing, a reminder on the price of aerotows. If you're a winch current pilot, you can take 1,500 foot aerotows for 16 quid, up to a maximum of 3 if you're training. That also applies, and if you're doing check flights to 1,500 feet, that also applies. And that'll run till Sunday.